say hello right now to a man who could take anything negative and spin it positive. He is the host of the Turn on the Jets podcast, part of the Badlands family. It's our friend Will Parkinson, who joins us now. What's up, Will?
Oh, that was good. I like that. I'm not always positive, but I try to steer positive. There's enough dog shit in the world, you know?
I just loved when I was listening to Badlands this week, and Joe Caparoso made a joke. Hey, if the Jets do all this, they make these crazy trades, and Will Pa's gonna be talking about 11-6, and I'm like, let's go, man.
A couple cocktails and some good draft picks, we might get there.
We certainly will get your thoughts on the draft and some crazy scenarios that could potentially play itself out. But I wanted to start with just the latest on Ty Simpson, because I saw you quote tweeted a tweet of Ty Simpson today going through his private workout with members of the Jets brass at the Alabama facility. That tweet has since been deleted by the Alabama reporter that posted it because he was not allowed to shed light on the workout. But I saw the tweet, and while it was up, it was clear. At the workout, you see Ty Simpson about to throw a pass. Frank Reich is standing right there, as is Aaron Glenn, as is Darren Muji, and Bill Musgrave, the QB coach. So the tweet's been deleted, so I can't show it. But we know that the workout happened this afternoon, and we know that the Jets wined and dined with Ty Simpson last night in Tuscaloosa. What do you think of all this? How in play is Ty Simpson in the first round or second round to the New York Jets?
I know, I actually did see that. I was wondering, I try not to go. Post unavailable. Interesting. I think there's a chance. I don't think it's as likely as it maybe was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's definitely been a little louder around Ty and the Jets. But Jake, I've seen a lot of people, we can't take, listen, there's obviously avenues in which he's more desirable than there's not, but wouldn't we be killing the Jets if they weren't doing a private workout with Ty and getting dinner with him and working Beck out and Aller? We'd be killing Glenn and Muji. We'd be like, what are you guys doing? You're just punting on quarterback again. You have no interest. So do I think that the Jets should be taking Ty at 2? No, I don't think that should be the case. Do I think it's 16 if they had the right receiver trade on day 2? They knew they were going to get Brian Thomas. They had a handshake agreement that if, the Jet, they get Ty Simpson, whatever. Mike Tease talked about that story with Revis, where if Revis was on the board, specific things had to happen, but they had an agreement in principle with Carolina to trade up. If they had something similar like that and they knew they were getting Brian Thomas and they felt really good at 33 and 104, they were going to get defensive guys or whatever. And, they were like, we're fully convicted Ty's our guy. Good. Do it. I'd be really impressed if they said, he's our guy. We're all in. Muji and Glenn are all in on a quarterback. Muji was in Denver, and they were all in on Bo Nix when not everybody was all in on him, and look how it's worked out. You could paint that picture, and I'd be totally understandable of it. I also think there's part of it that's do they have the luxury to take a shot on a quarterback this year, or do they go, let's build up the roster as much as we possibly can, show significant progress, and then we get our shot at a quarterback in 27? I think those are the only 2 avenues, man. I really don't think it can be, it's a dart throw. It can't be a dart throw. That's my one. It cannot be this maybe it works. Hopefully. That's not how any good organization operates. They're not in a position where Green Bay, Kansas City, Buffalo, these other teams, Baltimore, have had quarterbacks in waiting, and they were really successful the year prior. And, they drafted the quarterback at the end of round 1, or they traded up for Allen or Mahomes. Very different scenarios. That's what the Jets are hoping are next year. This year, it's got to be where Denver was, or these other teams where it was hey, man, we like this guy. We would have taken at 8. He's there for us at 16. We have a plan at receiver. We have some other plans at whatever those other picks may be, and then go from there. So that's how I would approach Ty. Again, it's got to be full conviction, Glenn and Muji, Woody, everyone's on the same page. This is our guy. And if that's not the case, you can't take a quarterback no matter who it is.
There's a lot I like about Ty. He just feels like a second-round quarterback to me from the standpoint of what he does really well is why I'm okay if they drafted him in round 2. But the concerns are he's a little undersized at 6'1". He played through an injury this year. And the biggest thing by far, 15 games started. And people could talk around it saying he's the son of a coach or he was at Alabama. So when he was at practice every day going up against backups, it's not your typical lack of experience because of that. I get it. But this chart I put together, for me, is why I can't justify pick 16. I'm willing to even have the conversation about moving back into the end of round 1 or taking him at 33. But I just struggle to think Darren Muji is going to make this his big swing when he's positioned the franchise to have 3 first-round picks in 2027. So kind of walk me through some of the concerns with taking a guy like Ty at 16.
Yeah, part of the big concern, man, is I think in some ways Ty could play right away. I know everyone wants him to sit, and I would understand the idea of having him sit for a full year. I think in a perfect world, he sits behind Geno, and Geno plays well enough. Again, I've talked about this example a million times, and the Jets are in a position where, hey, it's not the same as the Chiefs example, but in a lot of ways, it's like the roster gets built up such in a good spot, and a year in the system, you're understanding the NFL, and they have all these draft picks and all this cap space next year where like Ty's coming into like a super team, right? Not actual super team. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you're like, holy shit, man, this roster is like really, really impressive. And if he just, he can game manage right? You just had Mark Sanchez up there. That's a lot, be accurate, take care of Mark didn't take care of the football, but like take care of the football, be accurate, be an adult in the room and all that stuff. Sanchez didn't get a chance to sit. The issue is like, that's the perfect world. The other perfect world is Ty so good, similar to Jackson Dart, that he forces his way onto the field earlier than expected. All that said, Brian Daboll still got fired. And so is Glenn going to, like, if Geno's playing well, why are the Jets benching Geno? Geno's not 45 years old. He's 35 years old, which I know is not young, but in a perfect world, Geno's here for 2 years probably, right? He's a year here as the starter, and then a year here as the bridge option, and next year is the year with the quarterback. The only issue, Jake, I'm having with the Ty conversation is, look at 2027. And yes, there is a lot of really big names in the 27 class. Ty would still be a very desirable option next year. If he had 15 more starts, right, we're probably looking at a different conversation. I don't know, like, how many quarterbacks are actually better than Ty next year's class right now? Again, things could very much change with a year, but a lot of the names in next year's class, frankly, are guys that all kind of had disappointing years or went back to school, right? Arch, Mayava, Mateer, the list goes on. Sellers, Lagway, like a lot of those names, man, are guys we all mocked last year at the top of round one, this time. So I'm not out on the Jets drafting Ty, but again, I'm just going to keep reiterating this because I feel like it needs to keep being said. They have got, if you're going to draft Ty, there needs to be a plan. Nothing's going to change in that plan except Ty forcing his way out of the field because he's so good. It can't be, well, we need to save our jobs, or, hey, the Jets are 6-6, Jake, and they do the Eli Manning where like the Giants bench Kurt Warner. It's like, no. Like, whatever your plan is needs to be fully convicted. Glenn's like, Ty's our guy. I feel it. Muji's like, I saw this with Bo Nix. If we keep building the roster up in 12 months, we're gonna be a team hosting a playoff game because Ty's our guy. Dude, I think we'd all get behind that, and we'd all be like, cool. The last time Muji took a quarterback, in the draft or was a part of it, it worked out. And it was a guy that was in the middle of round one. I still feel like it's hard for any Jets fan right now to stomach leaving round one without some combination of edge linebacker, and receiver. It feels like if you can't figure that out, they need more receivers. So again, if you're going to take Ty, there's got to be a plan. Carr, Sane, all really interesting prospects. Carr's really good. Again, is CJ Carr or Sane both coming out? We don't really know. Mestamaker's awesome. I love him. He might be the best quarterback in that class next year. He's also never played Power 5 football. So, and he barely played in high school. So, point being, and I know it's a long-winded answer, classic, but I'm only in on Ty if it's fully convicted. They have a plan. Muji, Glenn, ownership, coaching staff, Chris Johnson, Brick, whoever it is. Everyone's got to be on the same page. This cannot be a Woody decision. This can't just be Glenn, and this can't just be Muji. It's got to be it can't be the Joe Douglas. I'm not even going to listen and watch any other quarterbacks. So, Zach Wilson's my guy. That stuff has got not to be a thing. Sorsby, I saw some in the comments too. I need Brandon Sorsby to drop a little of the Zach Wilson in his game, and he's really talented. And there is a lot of fun Aaron Rodgers-esque throws in that game, in that guy. But there's also a lot of Zach Wilson like running around against a bunch of ass, and it's like not necessarily what I'm in on a top 5 pick per se.
Should the Jets draft Ty Simpson? We know the workout was today. The deleted photo of it is somewhere out there in the interwebs, but we can't show you it. But it did happen today. We know.
I'll see if I can. I might still show. Oh, I found it. Let's go.
You got it?
I'll send it to you.
All right. I'll put it up on the screen. I just want to have one follow-up to your Ty Simpson take there, and then we'll get to the Arvell Reese hysteria over total nonsense. I think everything you said is spot on about the organization needing to be aligned, but that's why I think if they take Ty, I'm not buying that they are fully aligned, because I can't think that Darren Muji, the way he has operated, positioning themselves with these assets, going out there and giving Glenn the defensive personnel he needs to prove whether or not he belongs to be at the Jet coach beyond just the 2026 season. All the reporting that the Jets are seemingly planning for 27, maybe it's a giant smokescreen and they just fall in love with Ty. But I just would still be very surprised if this is the swing they wanted to take, because I don't think Muji's on the hot seat. I think Muji's job's a little safer than Glenn at this point. But if he takes Ty Simpson and Glenn has a terrible year, the Jets don't win games, Muji's a part of that. Like, he doesn't get to be like, well, we just took a dart throw. No. Not with pick 16. You take a guy in the second round, it doesn't work out, fair or foul, that is looked at differently than taking the swing at 16. 100%. There's no pressure to play him if you take the 33.
Geno as much, because the only reason they get killed is because the punch in the face. They don't get killed for taking Geno in the second round.
No,
because it's like he wasn't. He was. There is a little bit of like. It just, the Ty thing is just so complicated, man. Because like, he is the one quarterback, and people can agree or disagree. He is the one quarterback realistically who they could get in this draft that you would be excited about to go. Like, I'm sorry, there'll be a time maybe, and you'll talk yourself into Nussmeier and Aller and Beck and these guys if they draft them during camp, and it's like, oh, young quarterback. I think Ty's the one guy at least you'd get like almost very excited about potentially, where the other guys are like, oh, could they maybe, who knows, maybe they'll be good, maybe they're a long-term backup, and that's totally fine.
Right there, by the way. There's Glenn, there's Muji, there's Frank Reich.
Musgrave as well is, where is he? Also, I wanted to say one thing. A lot of people were talking about the Arvell Reese. There was a picture of Glenn in front with he was not standing with Carl Dunbar. I know it doesn't matter, but that was not Carl Dunbar. Carl Dunbar is a lot bigger than Glenn is. There was just a picture.
The wrong black guy is what you're saying. Will.
Yeah, it was just everyone kind of just did the that's got to be him, and it was like the guy was the same height as Glenn, and Carl Dunbar is probably 100 pounds. I got 100 pounds on Glenn easily, so it doesn't matter. But it was just, I laughed. It was like, wow, Dunbar's up close and personal with Arvell Reese. I'm like, that's not Carl Dunbar, guys.
I love it. This time of year is just unreal. But there you go. Ty's the one I'm highlighting right now with Frank Reich. And then right here is the Mooj and Aaron Glenn. Are they looking at their future?
Jake, no Fred Warner to give Zach Wilson a hug to size him up. What are we going to do? We don't have the Fred Warner gate of Zach Wilson.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That when you have to size somebody up to see if they're big enough with a player in an opposing team that's in their prime, not usually a good sign.
You're probably not wrong about that. Ty Simpson, Jet fans, comment your thoughts. Let's talk Jets with a good friend of the program. It's our pal, Paul Fiore, who's got an awesome YouTube channel that everyone should go subscribe to. Jets Talk Now. Paul, happy Saturday. Draft less than a month away. What's going on?
Happy Saturday. Not much, man. Just, I can't believe we still have almost 4 weeks of waiting for the draft, because I can't imagine what else is going to be talked about in the next 3.5 weeks. And Jets Twitter just fighting over the Bendgate is hilarious. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting time.
I have never seen like the off-season elements of the lead up to the draft be covered the way they're now being covered. Like, just how much fans are paying attention to pro day workouts. Like the fact that there was a legit outcry from a portion of the fan base over the bend or lack thereof of Arvell Reese because of a still shot in a drill comparing him to a different prospect. We have never seen heightened attention on pro days like we've seen during this cycle.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I'm in the position right now where I'm like, look, at the second pick, you can justify any one of Bain, Bailey, Reese, Styles. And like, I'm not going to have outrage over any of those picks. Like, there are some people that are just dead set against, Reese or Bain or Bailey. And it's just, I just look at it, I'm like, look, it's an interesting conversation, but to me, the more important conversation is at 16, not at 2.
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually more nervous what they can do at 16 because of this Ty Simpson discourse than I am with that second. we got some interesting reporting from my new co-host on the Jets Collective podcast, Rich Cimini. He was on ESPN's Sports Center and NFL Live yesterday, and Rich Cimini provided some interesting nuggets on what specifically happened at Ty Simpson's private workout with the Jets brass. Here's Cimini yesterday on ESPN.
Yeah, Field, the first thing to note that I think is important is who was at the workout. The Jets sent their top two decision makers, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, and also their two resident quarterback gurus, Frank Reich and Bill Musgrave. So that tells me something right there. And also last night, they had dinner with Ty Simpson just to get to know him on a personal level. And I know from being around Aaron Glenn, that's important to him because he, of all people, knows what it takes to play in New York and how hard it is to be the quarterback of the Jets. So they want to find out if that person has those special intangibles that you're looking for. And then presumably they gave him a play sheet and with their plays and some of the concepts they like to run in their passing attack. And then the next morning, this morning, they test him on those plays to find out what kind of retention he has, put him on the whiteboard and see what kind of memory he has. Look, I've been around the organization a long time. Based on what I know, I'd be a little surprised if they took him at 16, only because they have so many other needs. And I do know this, Field. With 3 number 1 picks in next year's draft, the Jets do not feel like they are pressured to take someone this year. So they're going into it with that mentality.
Assuming Rich is right, and I have no reason to think he wouldn't be with his reporting, that's the right approach the Jets should have, right? They should be doing their due diligence. People are going, oh my God, they're going to take Ty because they're working him out privately. That's what you want. You want them to do their due diligence. You want them to get to know the player. What if he's not there at 16 or they don't want him at 16, but he happens to make it to 33 and you're like, you know what, at 33, we're willing to roll the dice and take a chance on him there. Anyone freaking out or saying, oh, they're going to take Ty, for those who don't want Ty, I know some just say take him at 16. This is what they should be doing. This is the bare minimum you're expecting an NFL franchise to operate with, to put all the resources, do all the due diligence when you're talking about potentially selecting a player that plays the most important position in sports. So anyone upset that they're doing a workout with Ty Simpson and they're bringing Musgrave and Frank Reich with Glenn and Muji to watch it up close, what are you talking about, man? This is exactly what they should be doing, whether they draft him or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be killing them if they weren't doing these things. I mean, like last year, I felt they needed to draft a quarterback and take a swing, and they didn't, right? And everyone's like, well, they got Brady Cook, and we saw what that was. The Jets are coming off a 3-win season. And yeah, they have Geno Smith for a year on a cheap contract, but you have to do your diligence on all these guys. And, you know, aside from the fact that then, you know, Fernando Mendoza, we know, is gone. Like, you know, I was watching a report the other day where they were basically saying he's already working on the offensive install, right? So, you know, Ty Simpson makes sense from the perspective of we just don't know where he's going to fall. And so I'm not freaking out in any way that they're doing these things. Like they met with Drew Aller, they had him in for a workout at you know, at Florham Park. They spent time at Carson back. They should do this with every single prospect that is in the quarterback position. Makes zero sense not to. They need to draft somebody. I don't think they should be drafting him in the first round. I don't necessarily even want to draft him. And you're a little different than me. You're okay with him going at 33. My view of the world right now is the Jets need 4 starters in these 4 draft picks. I just feel they need so much that we should build up for the quarterback in 27 and take a swing later in the draft. But I'm not freaking out that they're meeting with him. Does it mean that they couldn't draft him? No, there's a chance. I mean, he's an intriguing prospect from his mindset and attitude. And the first 8 games of the season last year, he arguably was looked like the best quarterback, in college football. He could be an intriguing guy that, when they get with him in the room and they talk with him, that they fall in love with the prospect. It's possible.
And the big thing is, and Rich noted it in that report, the personality. You got to get to know the guy. There's a difference in being the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans and the quarterback of the New York Jets. There just is. Like, there's a different level of scrutiny, pressure, the media market, and the fan base, the unrest that is in the fan base in particular. It's a lot. And I think Zach Wilson came in as a very confident, excited to be in New York, take on the challenge type of kid, and he couldn't handle it. And like the wall's going to cave in and it zaps you of your confidence. I think that happened with Sam Darnold as well. I think you need the right person who can handle the bleep storm that is playing quarterback for the Jets in this market. And
Mhm.
I don't know Ty personally. Their job is to get to know him, to decide, hey, if we like the talent enough to take him, whether it be at 16 or trade back into the end of the round one or take him at 33, whatever the circumstance is, that box needs to be checked off that they think he can handle playing quarterback in New York, because not everyone can, and that needs to be a part of the evaluation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think, you think, any of us in the fan base thinks. If they meet with this kid and they see the things that we're talking about, he's got the mental makeup, he processes well. We think that he's a high level talent. We could be a top half of the NFL quarterback, and we want to take our swing. Then so be it. That's their decision. I struggle with believing they'll do it, just because it doesn't feel like it meets the timeline. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping they lean on Frank Reich and Musgrave to make this decision ultimately, because it feels like Glenn is literally handing the offense to him and saying, you need to do this, right? And so you like to believe that Reich is going to get the guy he wants to be able to develop. If they believe Simpson's the guy, look, I'm not going to like the pick. I'll root hard for the kid and hope that I'm wrong. But I just think that there's going to be a position there. The problem with drafting him at 16 to me is the Jets are a 3-win team last year and Glenn's on the hot seat. If they get off to a terrible start, the pressure to put him in the game is going to be massive. And he may not be ready for that. And so we're going to wind up rushing a kid who likely needs time. And what's the outcome going to wind up being, right? And you've invested how much time, effort, and money into the 16th pick to take a quarterback that now you have a terrible season again. And what happens in 27? You just basically threw away the 16th pick. I just struggle with it. And again, it's not because I don't like the prospect. I just wish he was, like, for me, the 16th pick is normally you're a 6-win, 7-win, 8-win team. You can go get a guy like him and develop him. The 16th pick for the Jets is not the normal 16th pick. That's just the way the Jets need a wide receiver or some receiving threat desperately. They didn't do anything in free agency for that position. To me, that's where you need to go get someone opposite Garrett Wilson desperately.
And the part of it that I seem to struggle with when some say, including people I like and even work with, I'm talking about you, Mike Tannenbaum, I'll play his cut for you in a moment to get your thoughts, Paul, is when people say, well, you have 3 first-round picks in 2027, so you could just roll the dice on a guy like Ty this year. And that's such bad logic. Like, taking a quarterback at 16 is way different than, you draft the quarterback every year. Yeah, you maybe take one on day 2 or day 3 and add to the pipeline. 16th overall is not just, you just roll the dice because you got 3 first-round picks next year. You're not going to take 3 quarterbacks in 2027. So that logic is flawed. And the reason why they have the 16th overall pick is because they traded a 2-time first-team All-Pro corner. So you need to turn 16 into a player that could help you for the long haul. If your logic is, we like Ty, so let's just roll the dice and draft him because you just keep drafting till you get someone, that's such a poor way to run your team. And in this cut I'm about to play, that's basically what Mike Tannenbaum said when asked why it's a, quote, no-brainer that the Jets should take Ty Simpson at 16, which you and I vehemently disagree with.
Absolutely think they should take Ty Simpson at 16 if he's there. Look, they're not going to take him at 2. That's well documented. They have 4 shots on goal, 16 and 3 next year. And when you have a productive, high-character quarterback, as you do with Ty Simpson, you absolutely need to take him if you're the Jets. The verb is scour. You got to keep going until you find one. I thought his combine workout spoke volumes of his ability to get the ball down the field. He's an underrated athlete we're looking at here. And if you're the Jets, I love Mekhi Lepton. I don't like Lemon. I love him. I think he's a dominant tier 1 wide receiver. But until you have a starting quarterback at the Jets long-term behind Geno Smith, you got to take as many shots as possible. There's a lot to like about Ty Simpson's game. I think he's a no-brainer at 16.
No-brainer to me. It's just crazy. There is, and Mike is right. There are things to like about Ty, but the things to like about him is why I think many in the fan base, myself included, are like, okay, they took him in the 2nd round. I'd understand it. But notice Mike doesn't mention in that cut there the just clear outlier that Ty would be if they were to take him at 16, given the just lack of starts he's made in college football. Not to mention the fact it's not like, he'd be this like outlier physically and you could justify it that way. Like, Ty's ability to play is, he's a great processor. He can make all these NFL throws, but it's not like it's Cam Newton who was like this physical specimen. It could take over games with just sheer athletic ability. Like, to me, it's just too many risks to justify pick 16. And then for when Mike says, well, you got 3 shots on goal the following year, that's all the reason to not just reach for a quarterback, because you don't need to do it. You could build your team. And I don't think any Jet fan is like, Darren Muji, you better get the long-term answer at quarterback this offseason, or else no one's talking about the Jets in terms of that. It's all about the 2027 class, because that's how they positioned their organization.
It's challenging to hear him say it like that as someone who was a GM. That's the hard part for me, because yeah, they have 3 first-round picks in 2027. Is there a guarantee that those guys get to make those picks? Like, what are we doing here? This is not year 1 of their regime. They won 3 games last year. Everyone has acknowledged they need to be better. So if you let's just play it out. You draft Ty Simpson at 16. Geno is washed. Let's just say Geno is washed. And now you go to Ty, because you need to figure out whether Ty can be the guy. So it's game 5 or 6 and Simpson's playing, and he's not the guy. So now you had Fields, who wasn't the guy, right? You won 3 games in year 1. You took a swing at the QB at 16, and he's not the guy. Is Muji getting year 3? He's not. So, like, it's weird to me that a guy like Tannenbaum, who was a GM for years, doesn't understand the simple logic, which to me is, you have 3 first-round picks in 2027. There's a good chance the Colts might be really bad. There's a good chance of that, right? Jones coming off the Achilles. We know year 1 after an Achilles usually not good. That team is not a very. I don't feel strongly about that team in a positive way. They have a tough schedule. The Jets need to be competent this year. How do you become competent? Make 4 really good first and second round picks that can impact your football team. Win some games. Show that Glenn can actually be the guy, and then you have your 3 first-round picks next year. That gives you all the ammunition you need to go get a quarterback. It just, again, it's not that I don't like Ty Simpson. I don't like Ty Simpson for the Jets, because I don't think the Jets are in the position to make this decision.
I think that's well said.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.